Welcome to the Engrafted Word, with a mandate to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, making disciples of all men, teaching them to obey everything Jesus has commanded, preaching righteousness, holiness, and the pursuit of consecration, without which no man shall see the Lord. Presented by Engrafted Word Church. And now, Pastor Christopher McMichael.
You and I are always bending rules with God, bending things He's requiring of us to get what we want, because that's what Mom and Dad let us get away with. The tenant complies to his landlord, or else. You just can't do certain things or you're going to get in trouble. The student complies to her teacher, or else. The traveler complies with the cabin steward, or else. The driver complies with the police officer, or else. So this is compliance. And the reason we're having to comply is because we were already breaking a rule. So we bumped into their authority. If they weren't in our way, we'd have kept going. We'd have kept driving faster. We'd have kept doing what we want to do on the airplane. We'd have kept building this way without proper codes compliance. The only reason we're being forced to comply is we went beyond submission. We began to break rules of authority, and now they had to step into our way because we got caught. So we're not really submitted. We weren't submitted. A true, genuine heart would say, oh, I'm sorry, you are right. You're right. I would even be willing to bet some of you, when you get a speeding ticket, you wait for the cop to pull off, you give yourself a 10-minute purgatory, and then you speed back up. At least for a day, Josh. Don't shake your head at me. I know you still speed. A couple days. All right, that hurt for a couple days. Got to make some overtime, pay off that ticket and my insurance bump. And then you're back to speeding again. That's compliance. Well, not even compliance. I mean, it's not doing 100, but so you're kind of compliant. In each scenario of compliance, the person is either forced, coerced, or extorted into obedience. It is obey or suffer. That's the only reason we comply. An attitude of compliance usually guarantees the adherent will fail to take on the flavor, the style, the culture, or the personality of the authority they are under. Why? Why do they fail to take on that authority, that flavor, that culture, that style? Because they don't like the authority in the first place. The reason is we say in our heart, you're cramping my style. You're preventing me from being me. Why would I take on you? I don't want to be you. You're in my way of being me. So it's rebellion, though it's compliance. I'm obeying. I slowed down. I did the job. I did what you asked. If you work for me, your attitude is that I just let you go. I don't need that. This church doesn't rise and fall on anybody, even the pastor. So we don't deal with those attitudes. Just do better and then get your heart better as you're doing better. Contrast this with biblical submission. Back to our definition, a voluntary attitude of giving in, joyful cooperation, joyful assumption of responsibility, and joyfully carrying a burden. Submission differs because it has a different attitude towards the authority figure than does compliance. It's all about the attitude, guys. It's all about your attitude in this. If you could just walk into every arena of your life, figure out who's in charge, and then submit joyfully, your life would pop. It would take off. Instead of sitting there like some redneck hick from this region, I know better than this. Who do you think you are? I was doing better than this at my other job. I know better. You ain't better than me. That's why this region's so wretched and poor in its ethic, in its income, in its housing, in its living style, in its families. Everybody think they know better than everybody else around here. I don't know, compare my life to yours. You hear the arrogance of compliance. Do it because I have to, don't want to. Gonna let everybody know I don't want to while I go do it. It's not counted as any kind of obedience. It's rebellion. And you'll be the first person fired when the boss needs to make a cut. Submission has a joyful, respectful attitude. It obeys like compliance does, but it does so out of a joyful heart that wants to glorify God, the giver of all authority. Submission glorifies God. Compliance frustrates God. Simple compliance even frustrates the professor, turning in that paper and just slinging it at the professor. I put it up and slam it when I go put it away. Go put that shopping buggy up. Why? Because I told you to, son. And he goes over there and slams it. Yeah, he complies because he doesn't want to get in trouble, but he does it with an attitude every step of the way. In my household, you comply, and then I'm going to beat your bum for the attitude. I obeyed with an attitude. The attitude's what I hate. I'm going to drive it out of you. We're deceived into thinking just simply complying is all God's looking for. And he's not just looking for compliance. He's looking for a heart of submission to all the authorities he has placed in our life, even that pagan boss, even that hard professor, even that jerk teller at the bank who gives you a hard time. Just comply out of a joyful heart. It'll become submission. You have to obey anyway. You can't always control the obedience because they're going to make you do it, but you can control the attitude behind it. And if the obedient act of compliance is a non-negotiable, then why don't you negotiate with what you can negotiate? And that's a joyful heart. Everybody's going to have to do it anyway. You might as well be the one that does it with the best heart. And watch the promotion come upon your life. Isaiah 1, let's read this verse. Isaiah chapter 1, I'm going to give you a few scriptures and not just notes. Verse 19 and 20. If you be willing and obedient, not just obedient, church, willing, cooperative, joyful. Willing means you have a good heart. If you be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. That's prosperity. That's promotion. That's favor. What we're going to look at here in just a few minutes, when I give you kind of a set of questions that you can judge yourself by, what areas of your life are you not eating good in? And we mean that allegorically. What areas are you lean in? What areas are you struggling in? Because that's probably an area of your life that you're not submitted to the authority. Therefore, you're obedient but not willing. And God's formula requires willingness and obedience, not just obedience. I think we've deceived ourselves into thinking obedience would take leadership or authority or oversight off of us. Just stay low, keep your head down, just mind your business, and it'll go well with you. No, just minding your business will not cause it to go well with you. Willfulness, joyfulness, excited to submit to whatever God has placed you, wherever God has placed you, that causes you to eat the good of the land. So many of you are struggling with areas of your life and you're trying to figure out, why am I not eating the good of the land there? And it may be this attitude of compliance but not joyful submission that's making all the difference. Verse 19, 20 says, but if you refuse and rebel, I don't want to do it, and I'm going to tell you I don't want to do it, you shall be devoured with the sword. That's pretty simple. Just give me verse 19. I want verse 19. Why be found in verse 20? So, hey, let me give you some characteristics of true biblical submission. Here's about 5 characteristics. Submission is eager to serve and be an asset. So in that regard, submission is proactive. It's eager to serve. On the job, it wants to help that boss. It wants to help the manager, the foreman. It wants to help the TA or the teacher, the professor's assistant. It's eager. I want to be an asset. True biblical submission wants to be an asset wherever God has placed them. Compliance is, I'm just here to get a paycheck. I'm just here to get a degree. Why not flourish everywhere God plants you and see what that does for your career down the road? Why not try to endear yourself to the hardest professor in the department, earn their favor, and have them as a colleague the rest of your life? You might need their letter for grad school. Why not get among that foreman, earn his trust, become his right-hand guy, and when he bumps up, he takes you with him? Why not be the biggest help in your household rather than the biggest thorn in your mother's side or stepmom's side? True biblical submission is eager to serve and be an asset. True submission makes you an asset. Compliance will just make you a liability. Number 2, submission is eager to learn and therefore take on the flavor of the leader. True submission wants to learn and take on the flavor of the leader. Whatever leadership God has placed you under, there's things in that leader he wants you to absorb. So true submission wants to learn from them. Why do you do that? How'd you get here? Where'd you go to college? What was your hardest boss like? You want to learn from them. We got to stop being this poverty-minded bunch of hillbillies from this local region that's like, I'm just here for a paycheck. I'm just here to work my 40, 45 and go home. Why be that lazy? Why hang or why grasp for such low-hanging fruit when you can see advancement? Every boss is looking for somebody they can trust to bring up higher so they can go further. It's not hard to do in this region. True submission wants to take on the flavor of the leader, whether it's taking on your husband's last name and their leadership. I like how the feminists don't want to take their husband's last name. They want to keep their maiden name, which was their daddy's name. So then I guess what you'll do then is make up a new name that then you'll expect your kids to take. Oh, you're a hypocrite now. There's nothing we have not inherited from somebody else. There's nothing we have that's not been given to us from somebody greater than us. Nothing. All this feminism, all this wokeness is rebellion against the institutions of God. It's the doctrine of Balaam, which says God won't destroy them, but if you teach them to be rebellious and dirty, they'll destroy themselves. God can't curse them, but you teach them how to be lawless and to mock authority, God's judgment will wipe them out. A company, if you're submitted, you'll want to learn a company's research or sales technique. You'll be happy to work for that company. How do they make their sales? You'll take on a sports team's legacy or their coach's techniques. You want to get in a ministry and take on that ministry's spirit, the spirit of excellence or faith or the spirit of healing or the spirit of soul winning. A craftsman will get in there and want to take on his leaders, sit under their apprenticeship and be like the master craftsman. When I did jiu-jitsu and judo, we selected the dojos we went to by the sensei or the instructor's reputation. We knew the reputation of the instructors. We chose where we went to school by their reputation because we were going to go there and joyfully submit to whatever brutal punishment they put us through because we wanted to be like them. That's in judo. And we don't want to do that in the church? Well, they'll try to control me. Nobody can control you. That's evident. You can't even control you. Your wife hates you. She can't even help you. Why would I want to control you? I just want you to be a better human being. Here's the one that gets me. Even Hollywood actors will say, I've always wanted to work with this director. And what they mean by that is, I've always wanted to submit to their hand of direction to see what they could bring out of my acting ability. Even Hollywood gets this. Even if he's a known hard act director and a ruthless director with a demanding schedule, they'll line up to work with the famous directors because they make the best movies who bring out the most from their actors. And I've watched these interviews like that was the worst filming I've ever done. And if he called me tomorrow with another script, I'd sign up in a heartbeat. Why? They brought the best out of me. It takes submission, not compliance. Submission. Submission is in no hurry to quit and move on to greener pastures. Maybe if that's you in your job, you're probably not submitted. If that's you with the church, you're not submitted. If that's you in your marriage, not submitted. If that's you, sometimes we hear this in our church. Every church hears it. I just can't wait to turn 18. What's the implication? And get out of here. That's not submission. That's compliance. Kids will comply to keep mom and dad off of them. Submission is eager to master its current domain because submission is key to biblical stewardship. We submit to the responsibility of what has been given to us. Please see that wherever you're at today is a testing ground for God in your life. He wants to see how well you'll steward it. How well will you serve there? How well will you take a hard day from the boss or a hard day from the professor or mistreatment from a cop? How well will you handle that? Being rude by somebody, people are rude all over the world. It doesn't know color. It's all about culture and it's just people. It's just rude people. Submission is eager to master its current domain. If you don't want to master your current domain, you're going to be eager to jump to the greener pasture. But the reason it's greener over there is because you're not there yet. And once you get there, you're going to ruin it. And they're actually building their fence taller Because they don't want you. Because they called your boss and they're like, I'm sorry, you don't want this guy. I'm trying to get rid of him. But please, yeah, that's why they call for references. You want to know why you probably didn't get that last job? References. Because hard, shrewd business owners don't lie to another business owner. Their integrity is on the line, and if you're doing a horrible job for them, he's going to tell them, they're wanting to leave me, I wouldn't hire them. They're wanting to leave me, that's an answer to prayer. But I wouldn't hire them if I were you. Let them find somebody else. I wish you'd hire them so they would leave me, but I wouldn't do that to you. Consider maybe the reason you didn't get the last job was somebody's reference. Submission is faithful and dependable. So let me give you a few points and I'll give you this list of questions and we're going to do communion. How about submission's rewards? Not compliance. These aren't the rewards of mere compliance. Here's the rewards of submission. In a single word, promotion. Promotion. Faithfulness and dependability will promote you. Joyful attitude will promote you. Learning the ability of your leader, catching the heart of the platoon you're in, or the company you're in, that'll promote you because you've captured the essence of what they're trying to replicate and they need to replicate it. You're an asset. You're not just a liability. So in a word, promotion. Number 2, submission will increase your skill set. That's good. Number 3, submission will increase favor in your life. It'll increase knowledge. When you have favor with a boss or a professor, they will pull you under their wing and show you things. When I gained favor with some of my professors at Tech, they would drive me around in their own vehicle. We'd do research together. Some of my most fond memories is when the professor would pull me into his office and talk to me about things important to him. I knew he wasn't having these conversations with everybody else. To have a professor take me into his lab area and open up his refrigerator and give me one of his favorite soft drinks and open it and pass it to me and say, all right, let's talk about this. That was favor. The punk who hated his class didn't get that. One of my professors who's passed away now, he did his PhD on Mount St. Helens, which really endeared me to him. He was a Vietnam vet as well. He liked me so much, he used me to do a bunch of research on caves and geomorphology. So I'm a published researcher now because of him, and I drive all over the Upper Cumberland with him. He tells stories and make jokes, and we go look at stuff on the plateau and do research, all because of favor. When you take an attitude, nobody wants to be around that. So be ready to stay on the bottom rung of the ladder till you die. It increases favor, increases knowledge, it increases honor. And here's what the nonconformists don't get. Submission will actually increase your individuality. It'll make you more individual than anybody around you because submission brings the real you out. It causes you to be confident. Submission, because it's a spiritual principle, allows the fullness of God and His creativity in you to come out because you're not submitted to the counterculture. You're submitted to a spiritual principle. So the promotion comes, which puts a greater demand on you, which causes another part of your brain to unlock. It causes another confidence to unlock. It causes a new realm of influence. It's just making you more individual than anybody else around you. Whereas if you notice, all the nonconformists are so conforming. They all look the same. They all talk the same. They all pose for their pictures the same. The biggest gaggle of nonconformists, I don't mean that bad because what I'm about to say is bad, sororities. They all, it's like dun 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 da 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 dun 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 da 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 dun 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 da 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 dun. They all pose for pictures the same. They all dress the same. They all talk the same. They all act the same. They all like the same. They all think the same. They're nonconformists, but they've conformed to the system. To submit in every arena will make you so individual, so different. You'll be confident to be who you want to be, not who everybody else wants to be. And on top of that, it'll promote you, which sets you apart from those who are merely compliant. Submission will make you an individual because success looks different on everybody. And those who legalistically check the leader's boxes, the leader's not dumb. He knows they're just legalistically checking the boxes. So let me give you a self-evaluation checklist real quick. We may go over a little bit this morning, but that is all right. Trying to help us find true submission. So I call this a self-evaluation checklist for submission. Assuming you are at the least compliant in every area of life, here are several questions to ask yourself. So number one, you don't even have to write this down. What areas or what are the rivers of divine authority in which God has currently placed you? And really all of us, it's going to be all. Family, unless you're single and your family's dead and you're alone, everybody's got family they submit to in some capacity. Whether you're a wife submitted to her husband, that's biblical, you know. Some of you men, I'd make the joke, you wear the pants in your household, but I'm pretty sure they're made by Lululemon. She sets them out for you. She likes the way you conform to them or they conform to you. But for the rest of us men who still stand to pee, we're supposed to be the head of our home. We have the vision. We have the direction. We're the one that seeks God to figure out where our family's going next. Ecclesiastical, that's the church. You're submitted to a local church, a local pastor, elders, departments, etc. And then civil, that's everything else outside of here. So here's the second question that really gets important. To understand submission, and maybe to help you to submit, what are the biblical purposes God created each of those arenas to accomplish? There's a biblical purpose behind family's authority. There's a biblical purpose behind ecclesiastical authority. There's a biblical purpose behind civil authority. If you can understand what those biblical purposes are, you'll take greater joy in submitting to them. You won't take an attitude when your mom and dad correct you or your husband corrects you. You won't take an attitude when your pastor corrects you or a sermon corrects you. You won't take an attitude when the boss corrects you or the police officer corrects you. You see, people getting to be with the police, our police are way more polite than I think they should be, and that's just my personal opinion. And all they do is, I'm sorry, sir, you can't go down this road. Why can't I? Well, because the road's out. I can get around it, sir. You can't go down. Why take an attitude? They're there to protect you, to prevent needs of further rescue. The road's washed out. They're trying to rescue people. Go home, go somewhere. What do you want me to do? That's not my problem, sir. I'm just here to block traffic. You stupid pig. Call me on 911 next week when your son kills himself. We'll see. We'll be there for you. Don't get me started on the anti-cop thing. Understand the biblical purpose behind each of the river of authority you're under. Number 3, what is God's purpose for placing you in each of those rivers? Ask yourself that. Why am I here? What's God's purpose for me being under this professor? What's God's purpose for me being under this boss? What's God's purpose for me being here? What am I supposed to take away from this? What's God's purpose for me being in this church? What's God's purpose for me being in this marriage, under these parents, under this husband? Ask yourself, what's the purpose? Is it to have peace? Is it employment and income? Is it to build character, to build experience, to build education? There's a purpose there's a reason why God planted you under these rivers of authority. Figure out what that is, and it'll help your joy come. You'll be so excited. Oh, I'm here to get experience. Man, I'll do whatever they tell me to do. I will do absolutely anything and everything they tell me to do because I will get favor and experience. And maybe, let's back it up and say it this way. Maybe that thing in your life you hate the most, maybe that's the gauntlet of your promotion. Maybe that's the doorway. You can't pass this test, so this is as far as you get to go. You can't submit to that boss, this is as far as you get to go. Not even God himself will promote you. You can't do the hard thing, this is as far as you go. So ask yourself, 4th question, have you taken on any of the strengths of the rivers in which God has placed you? Or are you still just being you? Nonconformist, dressing from Hot Topic. Have you taken on any of the strengths of your job, your boss? Have you taken on any of the strengths of your church, your elders, your pastor, the elders' wives, the pastor's wife? Have you taken on any of the strengths of the civil authority you're under? Have you taken on any of the strengths of your mom and dad? What are your mom and dad harping on you over? Because it's something you obviously are lame at. Moms and dads are anointed of God to train children to improve. They're trying to help you not get out to college and be an embarrassment. Clean up that room, brush your teeth, comb your hair. You shouldn't be a grown man coming out of your house every day like a guinea pig got in a fight with a woodchuck. Some of you, your hair, you'd be better off being bald because evidently it's too much work to comb your hair, put some product in it, and brush your teeth so you don't smell like pit toilet mouth. Mom and Dad were supposed to train you in that. You're awfully quiet. It's a lot more sporty in Sunday school when we talked about prodigals. But, all right, fine. You stare. This is what you guys look like right now. You want promotion. TBN lied to you for 30 years, said you could just sow for it. Cash offering into a millionaire's jet. It's not how you get promotion. You submit to get promotion. I'm trying to teach you how to do that. Some of you are hell-bent not to. Point 5, question 5. Have you seen any advancement upstream in the rivers you're under? That's really how you tell if you're submitted. Have you seen any advancement upstream in that river? Or are you still where you were 5 years ago? Worse yet, are you downstream? If you're neutral, it's probably because you're on the bank sucking for air. Have you seen any advancement? Or have you washed downstream? That is, demotion, loss of responsibilities, loss of income, loss of favor. If you're experiencing that, you're not submitted. Point 6, evaluate your attitude toward each of the areas. What's your attitude towards the river of authority, attitude towards God's purpose for that authority, attitude towards your role in that river. And in each of these 3 areas, would you say you're submitted or just compliant? Are you submitted, compliant? And final question, which is kind of a redundant of the other question, but advanced or worded a different way. How would you describe your current trajectory in each of these areas? What's your trajectory in your family? Is your marriage getting better or worse? Is your parenting getting better or worse? Are you growing up to respect your parents better or less? What's your trajectory at church? More responsibility or less? More promotion or less? Do you keep getting demoted from every opportunity you're given? Do you keep getting corrected over and over again on the same areas? How about on your job and your education? Are you seeing an upward trajectory or downward trajectory? Does every professor hate you? Because if every professor hates you, it's not the professor, it's you. You're off-putting. Professors just want to teach and do their research. And honestly, they just want to research because it's publish or perish. They want to get their publications done. They got to come teach a class to have their adjunct or their junked in. Then they just want to go research. They just submit, learn their material, help them research, give them help. They'll give you favor. And they'll give you a good recommendation. They'll help you get the next job. If every boss hates you, I don't think it's the boss's problem. This is easy, church, but never forget you're an American. And our DNA is, who are you to tell me what to do? I know what I'm doing. I watched it on YouTubes. That's fine. Keep mastering it. Keep ripping it up.
Thank you for joining us today. We trust that the preaching has been a delight and blessing to your soul. Be sure to join us every Sunday and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. for the preaching of God's Word. For more information, contact our website at www.engraftedword.org.